Hey, Donald.
What's up, Jeremy? How you
How you
doing,
doing?
bro?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good.
We got started a little early today, but that's okay. We actually could have gone on an hour ago if we wanted to, but not quite.
Yeah, still had some last minute things to tie up here.
Yeah. Um, the topic of tonight's show is about the potential sale of the WWE, which is causing quite a bit of controversy. But first, we wanted to, for those who don't know, last night, wrestling lost one of its greatest modern wrestlers, um, Jay Briscoe. 38 years old, he died in Delaware due to a car wreck, and his two daughters are also in the hospital as well. One of them got taken in for surgery, um, so we don't know anything beyond that. I have never seen this guy wrestle before, but I have heard and read so much about him that to understand that he was very well respected amongst the wrestlers and the fans.
Yeah, I was reading a few Twitter comments and all that, and people from different organizations and everything are sending their condolences and everything, all the way from Triple H to I think I saw one Matt Hardy a while ago,
Yeah,
Adam
he
Cole.
he was with Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor is a part of, well, it's owned by the same guys who own AEW. So they were doing a lot of crossovers there.
Yeah, I saw a few matches of ROH a few years ago, and it was really high impact stuff from what I
What
saw. It was really good.
one thing about them that really stood out is that they always required a handshake before and after a match, which I thought was really unique because you just don't see that.
No, not too often. Every once in a while. I remember back in the old days, you have two baby faces coming in. Start the match. They would do that.
Yeah. Um, I remember a major sign of respect between the Undertaker and Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
remember that.
Jeff gave him a run for his money, and by the end of the match, he refused to stay down. Undertaker was coming back to the ring, and it looked like he was going to beat him up some more, and instead he raised his arm up.
Right.
Doesn't get any bigger than that when it comes to the Undertaker showing you some respect.
This is true.
Yeah,
I've seen, not to get off topic and all that, but I've seen a lot of Undertaker interviews, after he retired and all that. And, for years he didn't do interviews. He didn't uh,
hmm
do all I guess, personal things to keep in character for so many years. And after that, it was like this whole big world has opened up to where you actually, get to see the inside of his brain, I guess, say on what he's thinking and all that is, Mark and not necessarily Undertaker.
I've seen some of those interviews. I've seen one that he did with Steve Austin.
Yeah,
Um,
saw that one.
I also saw one where he was doing the Hot Wings challenge and doing the interview process through that.
I gotta have to watch that one. I hadn't seen that one.
That one was pretty cool. Um, and then, of course, that speech that he gave for the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
That
to my
I don't.
knowledge, that's the first inductee that's been given that privilege of talking that long.
Yeah, he spoke at least an hour.
Yeah, he talked for a while.
Yeah. And he was the first one who did not actually use the podium. He had that little earpiece microphone thing so that he could walk around.
Yeah.
He could actually be a motivational speaker.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Definitely one of the best speakers I've heard. He had the best speech of all the Hall of Fames.
Yeah. So it was a sad day to see him retire.
Yeah.
Long time fan of Taker and all, but all good things must come to an end at some point in time.
Oh yeah. And when it comes to retirements, as far as having that last match, even though it was cinematic, I don't think he could have had a better last match than the one that he did with AJ.
I agree. It was totally different, and of course, it was around the whole COVID stuff too.
It was right at the start of COVID.
Yeah, so it was, I guess, a different time during that where you not necessarily live all the time, where you really don't have those miscues and mess ups. If they mess up, they just redo it.
And it was one of those very, very rare cases where you're going in knowing this is your last match and you're still winning.
Yeah, yeah. He wound up cutting his arm during that match in busting the window out. They had to stop recording and all that and stitch him up and stuff. But yeah, it was a really good match.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I know the argument could have been made that his last match should have been with Kane, but I think given the circumstances and the way that they pulled it off, AJ, no one could have done it better than AJ did.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you gonna bring a match in where you've already faced the same competitor before, just kind of gets. I know it's a different match in different circumstances, but it's kind of, you've already done this.
Yeah.
Put it out, put in somebody in there that can really bring it to you.
Mm-hmm. And AJ did, along with his guys. And the way that they brought in the Druids there, how they lit up the barn, especially at the end.
Yeah.
Real good. Yeah, I heard that it took them 8 hours to do the whole thing.
Yeah, I can imagine it. I would have figured it took longer than that.
Yeah.
I guess they got their stuff all on the line, already know what they're going to do, so it's just a thing of getting it done and recording it.
Right. At least they didn't have to worry about doing dialogue.
Right.
So anyway, this week's topic. A lot of controversy behind this one.
Yeah, I know me and you have talked about it behind the scenes, about our differences or our opinions of, what should be done. I don't know if it's not so much a power play, possibly. Maybe he's not going to sell and just using that as a way to get, back on the board and all that stuff. Because from what I'm hearing, he's rewrote bylaws and everything else when he came back on.
He did some sort of filing where he no longer has to have approval of the board and the stockholders for any decisions that he makes.
Right.
Under normal circumstances, this would be seen as a hostile takeover or a coup by another company, but this is by the guy that who owns his own company.
Right. And I was thinking about it today. It's like, what's the what's the thinking behind? You're 77 years old. What's the thinking behind you're wanting to sell something you've built this long and built this up?
Yeah.
What's the motivation for wanting to sell it? Are you wanting to reinvest in something else? Because he's getting up in age.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that he's lasted as long as he has. Um, because from what I've read, he does not take a break. He doesn't really take vacations hardly at all. I mean, he is on the go all the time, and the consensus is that he expects everybody that works for him to be the same way, but
Right.
that's not going to happen.
Right.
Um, I like my sleep, but when you think about what the company was when he got it, because it was very, very small,
Right.
and nothing about it, honestly, at least in my opinion, nothing about it stood out really from the rest of the organizations in the country.
Correct.
The biggest one around at the time was the NWA, and they were affiliated with them off and on.
Well, when he bought that from his dad and all, and then just started making those moves, and I mean, the first thing was, syndicated, shows. Started selling those. I watched a documentary a long time ago on, kind of the WrestleMania, how it got started and where it came from,
Yeah.
and you go from syndication to major, what it is today. It's huge. It's like the Super Bowl of wrestling. Everybody watches WrestleMania. If there was some time where I took breaks from watching it, I always watch WrestleMania. That was the big one.
Yeah. But WrestleMania basically sells itself by name without any knowledge of who might even be on the card.
Correct.
Although this year was a little bit different because they had been talking about The Rock coming back to WrestleMania. And they said that this year was um, record breaking gate sales. They had sold more tickets for this WrestleMania than any of the other WrestleManias altogether. And I remember one person making the comment, yeah, everybody thinks The Rock's going to be there,
Right.
but they're going to be disappointed if he's not. And I get that.
Well,
I completely get that. But at the same time, WrestleMania, it doesn't need The Rock.
no, it's about the show.
Yeah,
It's WrestleMania.
right.
Anything can happen. Where is it at this year?
I want to say it's in LA.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was in LA.
I'm
So
going to take a quick look. But I think it is in LA because,
it's in Hollywood, isn't it?
yeah. Um,
I think I remember something last year when they were talking about Hollywood.
it is Inglewood, California, so right there in the LA area. It's going to be at the SoFi Stadium. Next year is going to be in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Philadelphia. That's going to be the first time that WrestleMania has not been on an ocean border state since only 2010 when it was in Arizona. See, back in the day, WrestleMania would go to several different places. Now it seems like they're kind of sticking around between California, Texas, New York, and Florida, between those 4 states. But given the locations, they would get the biggest draws too.
Right. You got a lot
Right?
of population in those areas, so you're naturally going to want to go to those places and get the most ticket sales out of stuff. I'd love to go to WrestleMania, but there's no way. One, I wouldn't take a nosebleed seat, and I cannot afford a ringside seat.
Right.
I can get a better view at my house.
Yeah. My first wrestling event was WrestleMania 8.
Am I freezing up or you?
Well, you've been freezing up
Am I-
on my end.
Okay, must be me.
Whoever's watching, if you can tell us who's freezing up on you, let us know. But yeah, the year I got into wrestling, that was when WrestleMania was coming to Indiana. So my dad took me, and we did get the nosebleed seats. And I think we talked about that on the last show.
Either that or we talked about it behind the scenes.
Possibly.
I think we did mention that.
Yeah, wrestlers were about that tiny
Yeah.
from where I'm sitting. And then whenever somebody would get slammed on the mat, you wouldn't hear the impact for another 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That was weird. And at the time, we did not learn about the speed of sound in school. So that was all new to me.
So you're like, what is going on?
I know. And now, trying to go to WrestleMania, You're
No,
like,
I've crossed them. They're way up there, way up there.
I forget. I remember looking one time, but I want to say that ringside tickets are almost like $2,000 a piece.
They might even be more than that for WrestleMania.
Yeah. But I've been to WrestleMania. I've been to Survivor Series. I've been to one of the In Your Houses. But I've always wanted to go to the Rumble.
I've been to several house shows. Not been to a televised show. Now, they did a Saturday night's main event, I believe, in Jackson not long ago. Now, whether they used it for filming for the episode or not, I don't know.
Saturday
Month.
Saturday night's main event has mainly been a house show lately. They just name it that, just like on Sunday nights they call it Sunday Night Stunner or something like that.
I always remember Saturday night's main event. That was televised.
Yeah, it was.
At Raw and all that.
That was Saturday night's main event was to the WWF as Clash of the Champions was to WCW. Only difference was Clash of the Champions, I want to say, was on a Wednesday night. And they always made it to be like a big event, even though it was only televised.
Yeah, I just remembered, just hit a memory that I used to record those Saturday night main events on VHS.
I did too.
They're in storage somewhere.
All of mine are right there in that China hutch. I've got several hundred VHSs there.
Wow.
But yeah, from recording wrestling, not just the pay-per-views, but all of the televised shows, WWF, WCW. I think I even have some AWF, GWF, maybe even ECW. I don't remember. But I got them all at the time. If it was televised, I was taping it.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
You're talking like, 3-4 hours a night.
I've got enough here to last more than a lifetime.
You ought to put together some of your favorite matches sometime. Put them all on one VHS. Of course, you'd have to go through days of footage.
Now, if I was going to do that, I would just go on YouTube and download the matches from there.
That's true. Back in the day, we didn't know anything. We didn't realize that YouTube would be so big, and you could readily just grab whatever match you wanted to see and just play it at that time.
Just recently, I looked at the Battle Royal that they had on the 15th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. They had a lot of the old time characters: Doink, Skinner, IRS, Bob Backlund, all those old guys.
I wonder, with the Rumble coming up, I wonder which, older stars are going to pop in, for their little.
I've been seeing some reports, and some are saying that Edge is going to be there, Beth Phoenix. Cody Rhodes has said he's coming back in the Rumble.
They don't have The Rock at WrestleMania. I look for Cody Rhodes.
That's what they're saying. It's going to be either The Rock or Cody Rhodes. It all depends on what The Rock's going to do. But the thing is, the Rumble's only a week away. They need to know.
And it may be one of these things where, Cody and it'd be a kind of a way to do the storyline to where, Cody and can't even think of his name now.
The Rock?
No. Main eventer, champion, Universal Champion. I went blank.
Roman,
that's right. It'd be a thing where Roman and Cody Rhodes are fighting for the title, and then Rock comes down, and everybody's thinking that he's going to help Roman out, and he turns on Roman and screws him over for the title with Cody winning it, and then they're going to turn a little feud with Rock and Roman.
I can easily see a feud between those two going on for months. But again, it all depends on what's going on. They don't know what his schedule is like, right? Well, we don't know what his schedule is like.
Right.
But we do understand that he is extremely busy with all the stuff that he's involved in. After all, he just recently bought the XWF. Or the XFL, I mean.
Really?
Yeah. Which kind of makes me think that between him, his business partners in the production company that they all own, that they could be potential buyers for the WWE.
I would like to see if there is a sale. I want to see it. Somebody's going to know what they're doing with it, not just another network company, buying it and basically destroying it. If they're smart about it, they would keep, your execs and all that, your behind the scenes guys in place to basically run it. Not bring somebody else in that thinks they know what they're talking about and really screwing it up.
That's exactly what happened with WCW. When Ted Turner bought it from the Crockett's, he just started throwing people in there. Okay, you're senior vice president, go run this thing. They had no idea what they were doing.
Right.
And it almost killed WCW in '92. And then that was when Eric Bischoff was promoted, I think, in '93. And he was able to use the knowledge that he had because he did work for the AWA beforehand, although not necessarily as a talent or on creative,
Right.
but he was still in the business aspect of it. And then when he took over WCW, basically, he the whole thing just blew up. Um, but on the flip side of that, it got to where it became too big for it to sustain itself.
You had a big roster
Yeah,
back in that day, and there's just so much time, TV time to get these big main eventers on the show, and to develop storylines and all that.
they had enough on the roster to probably fill up three full organization.
Yeah, and then you're dishing out this big money, having guys leave WWF at the time,
Yeah,
and coming over. I mean, you can't have that big of a roster with that many superstars and still maintain it all
right.
without getting broke.
And even when they were able to maintain it to a degree, they didn't maintain it well. They did find, especially with the when the NWO came out, because that was true history in the making. Nothing like that had ever been done before.
No,
Um, Hulk Hogan turning heel.
that
Nobody
was
would. Yeah, who would have thought that the face of not just the WWF, but the face of wrestling turn on his fans like that?
yeah, turned into the old Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, but looking at it now, it was probably the best move Eric Bischoff had ever made. But on the flip side of that, he just kept adding to the NWO to where they had 20, 30, 40 guys in there.
Yeah, if you'd have kept it small and not had maybe one branch off, but you had two or three different branch offs, maybe four,
Oh, yeah.
the different NWOs. I mean, it just kind of watered it down. I remember uh, back in the day. I think it was still WWF at that time. They they had the New Blood, and then there was another faction. It was basically the old wrestlers with the new young talent, and they were basically feuding together. And they had a big pay per view. It was like really, really big, and all your older talent wound up losing. Your older talent wound up losing every match on the pay per view, and it's like, this is. I said, this is not good storyline writing.
I don't remember that specifically in the WWF, but I remember TNA did something like that. And I think one of their factions was New Blood. I will I will look that up right now. I think that might have actually been in TNA.
I was almost sure it was WWF.
Okay, New Blood. No, that was WCW.
That was WCW. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But they wound up having, the older guys all losing during the pay per view. And I was like, this is messed up because you don't need one side completely winning the whole thing.
No.
You got to mix it up and back and forth to keep the storyline going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, New Blood. That was actually when Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo. I'll tell you what, Vince Russo, he came up with some really, really, really unique stuff, but he also came up with some really stupid stuff too.
Do you remember a brief time when the Warrior came over to WCW?
Yep, I do.
That was good. I don't know whatever happened with that behind the scenes, but that was a big thing with him and Hogan tying back up.
It was big. Um, for what it was worth, but I think in the end, when you consider everything involved with it, it probably could have ended up being considered a waste of time because the match that they had at Halloween Havoc was terrible, and Hogan nearly burned himself in that match when he tried to do the little fireball throwing it in Warrior's face. He ended
Yeah,
up in his face.
because it didn't light up the first time. If I
Yeah,
recall right.
and then when the Warrior returned, that first promo that he had, he was saying all kinds of things that was legitimately pissing people off. Um, Talking about not saying it directly, but making very heavy references to the WrestleMania 6 match. And then he basically outed Brutus Beefcake as the disciple because nobody at the time knew that that was Brutus. 'Cause that did not look like him.
Right.
Um, he basically outed him, and that's when people, oh, that is him. But before that, I don't think anyone made that connection. Look, looking on it now is obvious, but at the time, no, because he slimmed down and beefed himself up. His body did not look like what it used to.
Right. Well, he's had a few years on him at that point in time,
Mhm.
back from when he was Brutus Beefcake.
What do you think of the possibility of Tony Khan and his father buying WWE?
I don't know the probability of who's gonna wind up buying it, but I think it would be a good fit since they already got AEW and all. It's somebody that knows the wrestling business, so I
And they
think,
have Ring of Honor.
huh?
And they have Ring of Honor.
So I think it would be a good fit. It'd be somebody that knows what they're doing. Um, I guess time will tell. One, if he is going to sell it, or is it just a power play to get back on the board,
Yeah.
or if he's actually going to go through with it. So I don't have any rationality for why you would want to, at this age, at his age, why would you want to sell it? What, you don't have many years left. What are you going to do with all that money instead of just passing it on to his wife and the kids, and letting them continue on the legacy of WWE.
Oh, Linda's every bit as old as he is, I think. Um,
Who is?
Linda, Vince's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Okay, so Vince is 77. Oh, Linda's 74.
74.
Yeah. I thought they were closer in age than that. But I can see it where he would sell it, but sell it to Shane, sell it to Stephanie and Triple H
Yeah.
in the family. Um, but I do know that there was not necessarily a falling out, but there was some heat between Vince and Shane back in January over the events of the Rumble then.
I didn't know anything about that.
Because Shane had booked himself stronger than what Vince would have liked in the Rumble. Somebody wanted the final four to not include Shane. And Shane was one of the final three.
Well,
honestly, I don't think it would have mattered where Shane was at because Brock was throwing everybody out.
right.
Coming in at number 30, and he wins the Rumble in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't think at that time it would have mattered when even if Shane was the last one out.
Well, it goes with that the whole Vince McMahon thinking that, well, from what I understand is like his is the final say on everything.
Yeah.
As far as what goes on and what happens.
Hi, Brad.
Hey, Brad. Double trouble.
Yep. And over the years, when you look at some of the stuff that they had done, there's quite a few things that were real questionable, especially there in the early 2000s. Like for me, when they were doing the Attitude Era and getting towards the end of that Attitude Era, that was when I started losing interest because wrestling as a whole with WWF and WCW just became stupid because they were coming up with these ridiculous things, and then they were spending more time in the ring doing promos instead of actual matches.
Right.
And I ended up getting out of it for about 6 years.
Yeah, I took a major break and after the Attitude Era and just lost interest because you had the same people with the title all the time or the same matches with the same people over and over. It's like, man, you got to do something different.
Yeah, I remember at the time that there was Randy Orton was right in the center of that. It was either him and John Cena or him and Triple H main eventing everywhere. I get that, but at the same time, they all put on some pretty good matches.
The Elimination Chamber matches, I really enjoyed some of those. You had a lot of action, and you could sit there and watch that match several times and be looking at what's going on over here, instead of just right here.
Yeah. Plus, that match is dangerous too, especially for those that decided to climb up to the top of that thing.
Yeah, put Triple H in the hospital overnight.
Yeah. I think Eric Bischoff was the one that came up with that match. They say that storyline Chris Jericho came up with it, but I think Eric Bischoff was really the one that came up with that. But my favorite gimmick match is the Rumble because you just don't know who's coming.
Yeah, that's the anticipation of who's coming out next.
Yeah.
When the music hits. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different time there, Brad. You just had a lot of different, I guess.
The beginning of the Attitude Era was good. The beginning. Towards the end, not so much, at least for me.
Well, you just, I mean, wrestling was probably as big as it ever has been during that Attitude Era. because you had the Monday Night Wars also, going on, and then, the whole acquisition of Vince buying WCW, my thinking was, man, this is going to be great because we're going to finally be able to see some of those dream matches that we've all wanted to see. And he wound up, it was really good. And then when Stephanie come in with ECW, the purchase of ECW is like, holy crap, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And
Well,
if they kept,
Vince did buy ECW. From a business standpoint, I can understand doing that because now you got this entire catalog. You got all the video library. You got all this talent that you could utilize and really bring them up. But at the same time, he basically did the exact same thing as what Eric Bischoff did when he was doing NWO and bringing in everybody. Now you got a shitload of people, and you only got 2 or 3 shows to showcase them on. Somebody's not getting TV time.
What they should have done is kept them 3 separate entities and had crossovers.
Yeah.
That would have been the smart thing to do, because then you could still have your dream matches and you could still have your programming and all as well. And then you do a big pay-per-view and have your crossover stuff come in.
And that could have been WrestleMania, where you bring in the best stars that had the best years come in for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They could have done the 2-night WrestleMania like what they're doing now.
Right. I don't remember. I don't think Stone Cold was still around that much at that time, or not. Because there was always a dream match of Goldberg and Stone Cold back when they both were the champions.
That was probably the biggest dream match anybody could have ever had hope for. But I don't think that match ever did happen.
No, it didn't. But, man, if they would have done that, man, that'd have been a WrestleMania for sure.
Yes. There is no other place you could have had that but WrestleMania. But by the time Goldberg got there, it was pretty much the end of Stone Cold's career.
Right.
He got there, 03? Yeah, it was in 03. Because when Vince McMahon bought it, there was still at least another year's contract, or 18 months on Goldberg's contract, and he sat it out. So that would have taken him into halfway into 02. Yeah, so he debuted. Yeah, he debuted in 02 then. And then he was only there for 1 year. And the biggest match that he had 2 of them. I think he had a match with The Rock. Goldberg did. I might be wrong on that. And then he had the match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, where everybody just booed the hell out of both of them.
Well, it's because it was so quick. Wasn't it a quick match?
No, because everybody knew ahead of time that they were both leaving. After that,
I remember that.
Yeah, they were both leaving. And that was when Steve Austin came in and gave them both the stunner. So he did have some interaction with Goldberg, just not a match. But I think at that time, Austin was retired from active wrestling.
Right, he was just there for the filler, more or less.
Yeah.
Get the pops and all that.
Yeah, so that would be the risk if the Khans were to buy WWE. Okay, now we have all of this. And to think that anybody that buys them they have to consider they are not just getting a wrestling company. The wrestling company is a huge part of it, but they've also have a movie production company. They have a um, book imprint. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly, Brad. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, they do music. They have,
Well, that's if he winds up selling all of it as a whole.
well, I can't imagine him selling just the wrestling company if he's going to sell. Um,
He's a smart businessman. I'm sure he's got, they're kind of their own entity. They are owned by WWE, but I'm sure there are several different corporations, in there.
yeah. And the thing is, they would have to be really, really careful with who they sell it to, because when Ted Turner bought WCW, I had Brad, but not in quite a while.
It's hard for me to get AEW. It's hard for me to get WWE for that matter. I don't have cable at the house, so and Peacock, it doesn't show the most recent stuff
Yeah,
on regular servers. So I kind of catch up on stuff here and there on the internet with what's going on.
right. Um, yeah, when Ted Turner bought WCW, that was the biggest thing that he wanted. Now I got a wrestling company. Okay, but
What do you do with it?
can you run it? Turns out he couldn't run it. And then when he did that whole merger, what was it, Time Warner? He
Yeah,
he did that merger, and then in the end result, the ones that were in charge wanted nothing to do with WCW. They did not want that wrestling company,
right.
even though that wrestling company was one of their biggest things. But at the same time, it may not have been the most profitable. So, and with the way that wrestling is, if they were to sell to a network, and I saw that list of potential buyers, the one I would have to rule out would be Disney. Can you imagine Disney owning and running a wrestling company?
I don't want to get political with all it, but they're doing a lot of stuff on the movies and stuff that I guess younger generations, is okay with certain, things going on in the Disney universe. But, I guess some of us have grown up, watching different shows, and just some of this stuff just doesn't fly. It's like, why are they doing this? This doesn't make any sense.
Right. But at the same time, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard from a lot of different sources that it is true. But through shadow companies, Disney actually owns a portion of the porn industry. Like a subsidiary that Disney owns another subsidiary, which owns another subsidiary, which owns another that produces that stuff.
I can see it.
This is a way of, okay, I got my beak in it. I'm making money. I'm making profit off of it, but I'm not putting my name into it,
Right.
which is exactly what my company did when it sold its ice cream division to a company that it co-owns. Yeah. I want to keep making the money off of this, but I don't want my name attached to it.
Right. Like a silent, almost like a silent partner type deal.
Something like that.
Yeah, I agree, Brad. If Disney buys it, it's they're gonna go in the hole with that. They're gonna lose a lot of money.
Yeah. But at the same time, I would prefer Disney buy it instead of Saudi Arabia because that will
Yeah.
kill.
Yeah, that's the two worst case scenarios.
Yeah. It would make sense if Peacock buys it because they've already got their stuff on their streaming service.
And if they wind up buying it, because that's NBC, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's NBC. If NBC bought it and they moved everything over to Peacock, then yeah, that would be workable.
It would be, as long as they got people who actually understood the business.
Correct.
That's where Turner failed. And I think ultimately the company that is the major investor in TNA ended up failing and almost lost it completely. Because there was the time where they thought TNA was done.
Right. Well, you're competing against, you're competing a lot against WWE.
Right.
They were the main thing. If they bought WCW and ECW, which, ECW had a big following, but it wasn't like WCW.
It wasn't, but I think that if they had been able to go on maybe 5 more years and actually be able to pay their wrestlers, I think they would have been able to make it. But with the hardcore stuff that they've got, that's almost like an underground movement there.
Right.
And right now, today's ECW is called CZW, which takes Extreme Championship Wrestling to the extreme, literally. They go far beyond what ECW ever did.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of their shows.
I haven't seen actual shows, but I've read a lot of reports. I've seen a lot of pictures.
Is it pretty bloody?
Very. And John Moxley came from there.
Okay.
Now, I want to say that Kevin Owens did too, but I'm not certain on that one.
Well, shoot, I lost my train of thought on what I was going to say. It was something to do with the whole transition from WCW to WWF. And anyway,
that there was a very scary time for a lot of wrestlers at the time. Not just for WCW, but also WWF. Okay, Vince is bringing in a whole lot of people. Am I still going to have a job here or not?
Right. And a lot of those ECW and WWCW guys got axed.
Yeah.
A lot of them. They kept the very top talent, the ones that would stay. Sting didn't come over.
No, and he had good reason not to. Because when Booker T came in and he did his whole introduction promo, The Rock came out and basically, who are you?
Yeah.
Sting didn't want that to happen to him, and I don't blame him one bit for that. But if anything, when he went to TNA, he really cemented his legacy there. And when he came out to to WWE, there is no, who are you? Where did you come from?
Right.
At the time, they might have been able to get away with doing that.
True.
But still, Sting really cemented his legacy. But at the same time, he was also in his 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember back
still wrestling in his 60s.
I remember when Jericho made the jump early on, and Undertaker was actually in the ring and interrupted with his music and all that and come out there and started talking. And Taker said something to the line of, "I'm gonna cut you some slack this one time because you're new here. It's like, don't ever interrupt me again."
I'll tell you what, that first time that Jericho came out, the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
They just went nuts because they built his debut so well with that countdown clock.
Yeah.
They did that for many weeks.
Yeah, they did it for a couple months. So you didn't know what was going on.
And then once his name came out, oh my, what the hell is going on here? But Jericho is one of the first guys to leave WCW because he did not like how they were handling things, because even though at the time he was a cruiserweight, he was putting on much better matches with Ray, with Dean, Eddie, especially Eddie, than the main event guys.
Right.
But they were basically just there to get the crowd ready for these guys.
Yeah, I remember they had a lot of hype with Big Papa Pump coming over. He jumped in there and automatically had the main event, and oh my God, it was horrible. He couldn't move. He was doing the same thing over and over, and people started booing. It's like, oh my God, this is absolutely horrible.
Did you know back in '93 they wanted to bring Scott Steiner in straight into the main event? It was when he and Rick had left WCW in '92. Bruce Pritchard actually talked about this on his show. They wanted to bring Scott Steiner in as a singles and come in as a surprise competitor for the Rumble in '93, the one that Yoko won.
Right.
Win that Rumble, his first match there, and then go on to WrestleMania and beat Bret Hart for the title. That was their original plan. Scott Steiner did not want to do that. He wanted to continue being a team with Rick.
Right.
So that's what they ended up doing.
Yeah, he didn't last very long after that match. He wasn't around much longer. I think they realized like this was a bad idea.
Back in the day, he would have been good on his own before he got all bulky, because a lot of that had to have gone to his head.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that he was doing, some of the stuff that he was saying, it was just so off the wall. Stuff is messing with his head.
Yeah.
What about? I don't know the name of the company, but it's the same company that owns UFC. Um,
About them buying?
I'm looking it up. Endeavor. It's a company called Endeavor that owns UFC, Endeavor Group Holdings. So it's basically an investment company. Um, but their name is thrown around as a company that could buy out WWE, which for them may not necessarily be a bad idea, may not be a bad move.
Well,
Uh,
it, you know, that could work.
yeah.
You just like we said before. You there? I think I froze up. I think it's my internet. Yeah, I think it's my internet cable. I just noticed it was doing something weird. Uh, that could work, but there again, it's like we said on the others, you just got to have somebody that knows what they're doing when they run it.
I think they would because not only do they have UFC, but they also represent the NFL and the NHL. So so they do have their fingers into football and hockey as well. Um, and when the Endeavor was created, it was when the William Morris Agency, yeah, William Morris Agency and Endeavor Talent Agency combined. And I have heard of William Morris Agency back in the day, and they were like one of the biggest things ever.
So they got some stock in NFL and in NHL, is what you're saying?
In 2021, they had a revenue of $5.08 billion.
Wow. Now they have the money.
They do. They have a total access of 11.43 billion, total equity of 2.12 billion. They've got the money where they could just buy out WWE straight out. They can do it. And it seems like a company like that would have certain people in place where they understand, okay, we have this company. Now I need to find the right people to run it.
Right.
And when you watch all of these organizations, you pretty much have an idea of who would be the right ones to run it. But I personally think that Stephanie and Triple H would be the forerunners to actually buy the thing out. But I don't know if they are
If
able.
if they've got that money.
They got good money, but do they have enough?
Enough to do it.
Yeah. Because when Vince bought it, he bought it for 1 point something million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 40 years later, we're in the billions.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would be anywhere near a position to be able to buy it or not. But Triple H does have the mindset to be able to run a wrestling company.
Yeah, I wonder if him, Stephanie, and Shane could maybe pull some money.
Between the three of them, they probably could because Shane has his own company that I want to say was based out of Japan.
So that might be an option.
Yeah. It has.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's gotten better. Brought some talent back and doing some stuff that is interesting. You know, getting some storylines back interesting than just a.
I really like the build up that they're doing right now with Bray Wyatt.
Is he coming back?
He is back.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He came back in October. And they are teasing right now of Alexa Bliss going back to him. And they've also brought in a new character called Uncle Howdy, who a lot of people is thinking is Bo Dallas. You
See,
remember
I don't
you,
remember. I don't
Bo
remember who that was.
Dallas? He was with Curtis Axel, and Bo and Curtis were the Mrs. Henchmen. Bo Dallas is Bray Wyatt's younger brother.
Okay. Okay. Now I saw a little clip the other day of the Uncle Howdy, popping in, had a lot of smoke and had a top hat or something going on, and Alexa was in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
staring at it, and it's like, wonder who this is going to be. Who's going to pull this character off?
A lot of people think it's Bo. And there's rumor going that Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt are going to be facing each other at WrestleMania, which I think is way too soon to try to do something like that.
Yeah, of basically who's got control of Bliss, or is that the way this is going to work out?
I'm not sure. I don't know where they're headed with that, but they're teasing that Bliss is going to be going back to Bray Wyatt as a stable or something.
Yeah. I never really got into the Funhouse thing. I just couldn't. It reminded me back of the old.
It was a lot like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse.
Right. It reminded me a lot of the cheesy characters that they were bringing in. Now I didn't mind the Fiend. The Fiend was great. I love the Fiend. Fiend gimmick.
It was almost like what they're doing in movies today. They are taking the stuff that we grew up with as kids and turning them into terrorists.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Fiend. I enjoyed the whole mysterious, just twisted character. I guess I like those characters more. The darker gimmicks, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, maybe because I'm a horror fan. Maybe, I look at it that way.
Fiend was all right, but I really enjoyed the Wyatt family.
Yeah, I liked it too. The whole the not normal, stuff that you see all the time. Give it some color to it.
Mm-hmm.
Make it different.
And the Wyatt family had given us some great wrestlers. Luke Harper, extremely underrated. He never did get the big push that I thought that he should have had. Braun Strowman, he became every bit the monster you expected him to be. And Eric Rowan, I think they were trying to give him the push that he should have had, but not in the right way.
I got a couple stories. I'll tell you at a different time, a different episode, different show, but of one of the house shows. And I'm trying to think of what wrestler it was. I have to remember who it was. But it was funny at the house show because, I mean, like, you got a Coliseum that's almost sold out, and everybody says the same thing at the same time when this guy gets announced.
Yeah.
And it was just funny at the time. But then you saw him on Raw the next night, which was even funnier.
That almost sounds like Adam Cole.
Now, I don't remember who it was. I'll just throw it out there now. We went to a live show, house show in Jackson, Mississippi at Coliseum. Me and a buddy of mine, we got tickets. And we're sitting there, watching the stuff, and you see the your main event guy come out. I don't remember who it was at the time, but then this other guy, the announcer, announces this other guy, and it's like in unison, this whole Coliseum just like, who? Because nobody had heard of him. So, oh my God, who is this guy? And he wrestles, and does this thing. Well, the very next night on Raw, of course, it's live. This guy comes out to the ring. He does this, little intro, and he comes out there and starts yapping on the microphone. And I swear, at least 10 or 15 times, he tells everybody his name on that. It's like, that's because last night, nobody knew in the hell who you were. You're going to keep on telling everybody your name. I thought that was just funny as hell. And I remember that same thing is like, this was back during Evolution. And Evolution had this match. And the very last portion of the ending of the match was the same exact thing that we saw the night before at the live show.
The women's pay-per-view Evolution?
No, the actual Evolution. Ric Flair, Triple H, and
okay.
The way they ended the match was the exact same way they ended it the next night on Raw.
Huh.
I thought that was funny.
I can't think of who that could have been because I don't remember who would have been repeating their name time and time and time again.
It had been around that same time. I forget who they were wrestling, but it was Flair and Triple H and I don't think Batista was there anymore. He had done, won his title. I may be wrong, but I know Randy Orton. It was either Randy or Batista at that time. That was an Evolution.
Okay. I have to see if I can look that up, find it.
But it was during that same episode. Well, you wouldn't know that. You would know the episode. I would.
It was Monday Night Raw.
Huh?
It was on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, they was the main event. I'm trying to think of who came in.
Let's see, around that time.
I probably got those tickets somewhere in my collectibles that I'll look up and find out the date on it.
If you do, that would be a big help because I know a website that has a huge databases of even house shows. So if you can find the exact date, I might be able to find that card.
I know Taker wasn't there that night. That was the one before that show that we went, because we went several times.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to hear about that one.
I'll see if I can't find those old tickets and pull up a date.
Okay.
I got pictures of that. That night somewhere on a hard drive somewhere.
That would be a help too. So all in all, we have gone through different names of people who who can potentially buy the place. We talked about Peacock. We talked about Fox. NBC. No, we didn't talk about Fox. Talked about NBC, Endeavor, the Cons, Triple H, The Rock. Who would you think would be best suited to buy the place and actually keep that company running in the long run successfully?
Hands down, Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane.
That's who I would say too.
Don't try to fix what isn't broken. Yeah.
Well, the problem is a lot of people think that a lot of WWE is broken and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, but it's making Triple H has been making, making some right moves.
Yeah,
Getting back in track.
although I will say, and I'm watching it now actually. Well, I was before the show, but was watching the 2022 Survivor Series, and they brought the War Games in for that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I still prefer to have the elimination matches.
I did too. I like the old Survivor Series.
The pay-per-view.
Yeah, I like the old Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 or 3 tag teams or several individuals teaming up, and as you get pinned and you're out of the match now.
Right. I wouldn't mind War Games coming in as the main event, but still have the other matches as the Survivor Series matches.
Right.
That's what I would do.
I guess that's the nostalgia,
because that's what made Survivor Series.
Right.
It's like the Royal Rumble. I mean, they're not going to take the 30-man Rumble away, are they?
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, because that's the best match of the year.
Yeah.
And so they start out with the Royal Rumble, and then they finish the year out with the Survivor Series matches. I thought that was great. What they need to do is do away with the rest of the gimmick-based pay-per-views.
What the? I'm sorry, my daughter. I don't want this. Give me.
No, eat it. See, taste it.
No.
Eat it.
I have no what. It's cold.
It's pickle.
It's pickle.
Yeah.
I don't want the pickle.
Eat the pickle.
Yeah.
They need to do away with the gimmick-based pay-per-views like the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, because even though they have that, they still do Hell in a Cell at different other pay-per-views as well.
Right.
I thought Money in the Bank was a great opener for WrestleMania. And to me, it would make sense because you win that briefcase, you got a year. You got until next WrestleMania to cash that.
I think there's only one who did not win when they cashed it in. Didn't it?
No, there's actually been 4 of them.
4? Okay.
John Cena. He used to first. No. Damien Sandow was the first. I miss him. I really enjoyed him. John Cena, Baron Corbin, and Austin Theory.
Okay. I remember, kind of switching things, but I remember what it was. What I was going to say something about earlier was, push. I think they should have done was with RVD.
Which what?
RVD, Rob Van Dam. he had a lot of fan base, but never would push for whatever reason. It might have been personal reasons with him, push him onto the world title to actually hold, for a little bit because he had a big fan base.
I thought he did have. I'm
If he
looking.
did, he didn't have it for very long.
Yeah, because I thought he had already won a couple of world titles.
I'm talking about in WWF or WWE.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm trying to find him now.
From my recollection, they pushed him a little bit for world title, but if I remember right, he didn't keep it very long.
Well, at the time, not many people held their titles for very long. All of their titles were jumping around like hotcakes. Okay, I found RVD. He won the WWE Championship one time.
How long did he keep it?
Let's see if here it is. 22 days.
Yeah.
Basically, he won it at an ECW pay-per-view when they restarted ECW. But Rob Van Dam, he won WWE Championship, the ECW World Title, European Championship, the Hardcore Title, the Intercontinental Title 6 times, the Tag Titles 3 times. He won Money in the Bank. So it's not like they didn't push him. They pushed him a lot. But he just wasn't in that spot for very long because that spot kept jumping around from person to person. That was another thing that I didn't like is that at the time you weren't seeing long title reigns.
Right.
Now you are, and I like that.
I like it to a point. I think Roman's had it way too long. Because it's getting stale. It's like the same guys. It's like the old days of Hogan, when Hogan would get it, and keep it for so dang long.
Well, even Hogan himself didn't hold it as long as the other guys have. Bob Backlund, Bruno Sammartino.
Well, that's way back in the day.
Yeah, and what Roman is doing now is harking back to them days. In fact, they just said that there was a report that came out today that said Roman Reigns now has the longest reign in the last 30 years of any title. Last time anybody's held a title longer than what he has now was Hulk Hogan's first world title.
So Hogan is third or fourth in line now.
Bruno is first, Bob Backlund second. Then technically Bruno would be third again.
Right.
And then Pedro Morales, I think. Let me see here. No. What? Bruno first, Hogan second, Backlund third, and then Bruno again, Pedro Morales, and Roman. because only 4 men have held the title for more than 1,000 days, and Roman is now 130 days away, which takes him past WrestleMania.
True.
But they're talking.
He could lose it. He could win it. He could win at WrestleMania and then lose it at SummerSlam.
Yes. But honestly, in my opinion, I think he should continue on until next year's WrestleMania. Don't lose it at SummerSlam. Because at this point, this is going to be the biggest win of anybody's career, whoever beats him.
True.
Do it at WrestleMania.
Why not have a triple threat at next year's WrestleMania with it? If he gets past WrestleMania now, go ahead and keep it until next WrestleMania and then have some kind of triple threat. Something out of the ordinary.
Do a triple threat, put both titles on the line. Whoever gets the first fall gets one title. Whoever gets the second gets the other.
They could do that. They could do a bunch of
They,
different stuff.
they actually did that to Kurt Angle at WrestleMania back in the 2000s. Because he had the Intercontinental title and I think the European title. And that's exactly what they did. They put him in a triple threat with 2 other guys. And the winner of the first fall would, I think, was the Intercontinental, the European title. Winner of the second fall gets the other title. And what it was is that the other 2 guys, they pinned each other. Kurt never got pinned in that match, and he lost both titles. Yeah, you talk about that being a messed up situation. But they could actually do that with Roman, because then he would lose the titles, but hey, I never got pinned.
Right.
But I think in this case, you have to pin Roman to get the title. But now that he's had the title this long, they really need to take him up to 1,000 days. That's my opinion.
Yeah. We will see. Not too long. You know what? We got a couple months. It's going to be interesting, over the next 2 months, what's going to happen.
Yes, it is. And it's all going to start at the Rumble.
Yep. That's this weekend, isn't it?
Next weekend, the 28th.
28th.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the one that we're talking about doing a commentary thing for
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah. Yeah, we still need to talk about that and see what we want to do with that.
I kind of have an idea.
I think I'm off that day.
Yeah, you said you were off that day. I kind of have an idea of how we could do it, but I don't know yet. Again, the copyrights, and then, of course, this is an actual live event, so I don't know if that would go over so well.
Yeah. I actually work the 29th. I'm off the 28th. It is on the 20th, isn't it? I'm thinking of WrestleMania being 2 nights.
Oh,
Never mind.
yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Rumble is my favorite night of the year. They still only have 4 women announced for the women's event. And they have 11 or 12 announced for the men's.
But you never know who's in the Rumble.
I know. Usually they have about 20 announced on both of them. But up until a little over a week ago, they only had 1 person announced, and that was Kofi.
Who's he fighting? Who's he fighting?
Yeah, he's in the Rumble.
Oh, in the Rumble. Okay.
He was the only one that was announced for the longest time in either of the Rumbles.
Why not keep it a big secret all the way through?
That's what I was thinking. I think it would be great if they took 1 year where We're not going to tell you who's in it. You're just going to be surprised.
And you don't have any leaks, you know.
That's the problem. Everybody in the wrestling industry's got big mouths. But every now and then they're able to come up with a surprise. But it doesn't happen very often.
Not anymore.
No.
Well, I'm about to get off here. I'm fixing to go eat. I'm about to starve.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll go ahead and call it a show.
I think we ran over time, didn't we?
We did actually, but nobody's on. At least I don't think they are. I didn't get a notification about it.
They offered you a pickle. It was a piece of a pickle, Brad, just a small piece. I grilled hamburgers, and then my son finished up grilling. So I'm curious to see how that worked out. And everybody's, popping in now. Everybody's coming, getting to the house.
Yeah.
After being gone here and there, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're in agreement that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon should be the ones to buy WWE. But
I agree.
I personally don't think they're exactly in a position to be able to. But I don't know.
Who knows what the corporate side of things get stuff done.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what we see on TV now.
Yeah.
And pay-per-views. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for playing along. We'll be back next Wednesday. I think you said you're off next Wednesday.
Yep. I'm off next Wednesday.
Maybe what we can do is just talk about the Rumble. We got over 30 years of Rumbles to talk about.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Talk about previous Rumbles and then talk about what's coming up. By that time, we might know a little more of what's going on.
Hopefully we do, yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more shows over the next few days. Supernatural Talk, 13th Dimension. And then until next week on Mark's on Wrestling, we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, guys.